Lorraine, and we're gonna grab a seat, just, we're gonna begin. We have a small group in the house here, and so, I think it's always going to be, first and foremost, just to start off by saying, for those who have not seen Nick's away message, we're going to be losing him to the town of Norwell. But just want to say, I know you may not have seen it yet, but I wanted to first start off, so we're making him still work to the very end. Working those, I know, right? Adjusting and dealing with the laptop doesn't seem to be like heavy hard work, but obviously the work that's within today, the application, working with everyone, certainly the team with Paul and with Dawn, with many members around, within OCPC staff, it truly is. I'm gonna have you not do that in front of the.
Trying to figure out a good spot.
You know what I'm gonna have you do, because you're gonna go, come over this way, Paul. I'm gonna have you go right next to Laura, just because that way you'll be able to be heard and the microphone is there. We're just getting our stuff together here. So why don't we just go quickly hello, and just for purposes, because there's some new folks, and then I'm gonna turn this over to Paul Umano. So for those who don't know, my name's Mary Waldron. I'm the Executive Director of Old Colony Planning Council. And then I'm gonna turn this over to
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Malik Williams. I'm a composer, producer, engineer, educator. I'm the governor for the Audio Engineering Society, the global organization, and a co-chair for the Audio Engineering Society chapter in Boston.
Paul Ivano, Senior Grant Fiscal Compliance Officer for OCPC.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Buckley, the Executive Director at Mass Hire South Shore.
And I'm Lorraine Albert. I'm from Mass Hire's Greater Brockton Workforce Board, Director of Regional Planning.
Jason Hunter, Executive Director, Mass Hire's Greater Brockton Workforce Board.
Don Sullivan, Economic Development Director, OCPC.
Oh, and Nick Chiaquinto, Senior Economic Development Planner at OCPC.
just have them go online.
Yep, and we'll start online real quickly, just do a quick introduction. I'll call your name out just so we can be organized. Rick Jordan, Avon.
Hi, Rick Jordan, Town Planner, Town of Avon.
Bonnie from Stonehill.
Hi, Bonnie Troop, Director of Research Grants and Sponsored Projects.
Michael Tomasi.
Good afternoon, Michael Tomasi, President and CEO of AccuRounds.
Amanda Donovan. Amanda?
Sorry. Sorry, I was muted. Amanda Donovan, Executive Director of Grants, Massasoit Community College.
And Dottie, Mass Development.
Hi, Dottie Fulgenetti, Chair of the Select Board in Easton and Senior Vice President at Mass Development.
Corrine.
Corrine Silvio, Associate Vice President for the Future of Work Institute at Massasoit.
And Jeff Thompson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jeff Thompson, Brockton's Ward 5 City Councilor.
And Justin Casanova Davis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Justin Casanova Davis. I'm the Bridgewater Town Manager.
Thanks, Justin.
And Katie.
Hey, everybody. I'm Katie Ruggieri. I am the STEM Dean here at Massasoit.
And Paul Diamond.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Diamond over at Northeastern Machine here in Easton.
I think, is there anybody else?
Pam McCarthy.
Hi, I'm Pam McCarthy. I'm the Economic Development Director for the town of Stoughton.
And Tracy.
Hi, Tracy Altrich, Town Planner and Director of Inspectional Services for West Bridgewater.
And Matthew Waterman.
Hello, Matt Waterman, Associate Dean of STEM here at Massasoit Community College.
And I see the chamber. Is that you, Chris?
Yes, Chris Cooney, Metro South Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
All right.
And then there was one.
Oh, Carmela.
Hi, everybody. Camelia Jackson here from Brockton Public Schools Grants Office. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. The importance of going through this is our second meeting, really is to make sure that there is truly a representative of town officials, planners, economic development folks, businesses, private businesses, workforce development, Chamber of Commerce's, and as we progress, engineers, musical engineers, if I could, am I right? the important piece is that we continue to hold these meetings and to, in fact, continue the dialogue. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Paul Romano.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Appreciate it. It's going to be the second of many meetings as we work through the strategy development process and really hearing from you all and how we can really build this out. So what I wanted to do to start off was talk about some of the key challenges and opportunities, recapping from the last meeting we had for folks that were on the call last time. So as we look at the key challenges, next slide, Nick. Well, a lot of the things that were brought up, one of the big ones being often the misconceptions that we see about the line manufacturing. We had some great dialogue with Dan Evans from Evans Machine, as well as Mike Tomasi from AccuRounds. Folks often think about manufacturing as the 3Ds, dark, dangerous, dirty, right? So the hope is to change that misconception as we move forward, but something that was brought about as a challenge. That was in addition to some recruitment and awareness challenges that we were seeing in terms of things that we're seeing in the field. You know, despite funding that's available and the support that's out there, we can do better in terms of recruitment and awareness of the different fields that are available for folks. Something else that was brought up were transportation barriers. So access to job sites, right? Just being able to physically get to training programs and getting to these credential programs as well. So that was something that stood out in our last meeting. The other big takeaway was the insufficient credential programs that were available, right? And the fact that there really was a lack of incubator space that had the equipment that's needed to actually go out and do the hands-on learning and the hands-on training that's available. And then of course, this is obviously a big one, why we're here today is the funding limitations, right? And the fact that we have, OCPC has 100,000 here available to create a development strategy and work through those logistical challenges that we often see in coordinating. So we're hopeful that this leads to many more funding opportunities moving down the road. And then of course, the big thing is competition, right, from other regions. But I'd like to think that's what makes us unique here is the fact that we have a big advanced manufacturing area, if you will, between the 6 communities that are the focus of our strategy development study. So then that brings me into the opportunities that we have here today and going forward with the program. So one of the big things is something that we'll be doing is continuing to expand outreach, right? Creating a branding and marketing strategy, I think is going to be key as we move forward through this. And obviously getting all your input on what that could look like as we move forward. And then of course, reaching out to our high schools, our middle school students and making them aware of these career opportunities, right? And making them understand what is advanced manufacturing, right? It's not the dark, dangerous and dirty that was talked about, right? It's much more than that. So taking advantage of those opportunities, and of course we have the higher ends as well, in making sure that we address things from every angle in terms of the education piece. And then the other big piece is leveraging the current opportunities that we have, right? And the programs that are available. Whether it's AI, it's 3D, it's robotics, right? Stonehill College in Massasoit certainly do a great job and have the program involved to all of those fields. So the idea was, again, to create a real entry point for groups that are really underrepresented at this point. To continue to focus on how we build that. And then, as we talked about as the challenge, it's also the opportunities. How do we develop a space, right? And the ability to access future funding to develop that incubator space for, you know, further credentials in terms of programming and further training and the like. And then, of course, the big overall goal is addressing the middle and high skills gap, and how we do that together as a team, with the folks here at this table and the folks that may not be at this table. So I wanted to pause there, to see if anybody had anything else to add to that, or, you know, just any additional thoughts on those two slides.
It's a quiet group. But again, most of you are in this kind of space anyway, right? In terms of it's nothing really new, but as this is being promoted, I think the idea of again, repeating, not repeating what Paul just talked about, but having us all come together. So there will be opportunities if you want to say something offline, either put it in the chat or have the conversation, after the fact. Paul?
If nobody has anything to add, at least on those two slides.
Yeah, I mean, we're up here, we're having that done right now. We're doing that now. Well, I mean, we're in.
Introduce yourself first.
Oh, okay, excuse me, I'm sorry, my name is, with Cedric Turner, and I am the owner, executive director and president of, M Type of Power yourself. And we have to work within the schools, the middle schools and high schools. We have ourselves two, in fact, tracks. One is the economic and five type of nature with the literacy. But our main track is kind of like, STEM, engineering, aviation. And we have ourselves a type of focus on type of autonomous tech type of with the knowledge. So whenever you see with driverless cars, you see the drones. That right there is us. Last year, we was, in fact, so we're involved in a national drone competition, which our kids have to learn all that stuff. They have to learn engineering. They have to learn how to build the drones, which is with mud type of mechanical engineering. They have to learn how to code the drones, which is electrical engineering. They have to learn how to fly it, which is aviation and also aeronautics. And we have this done in the middle schools and high schools. And people on the national level thought we was crazy offering it to kids in middle school. But what we have found is that middle school kids learn like this. And it is a whole lot easier teaching kids in middle school than in high school. You'll find challenges in high school. You are not gonna find the same thing inside the middle school. Last year, our kids on a national level, we had one of the regional drone competition. We won against schools like Lexington High School, Belmont, Latin, so all the top private and prep schools, we had whooped. And we had one of the regionals, and we got third inside the nation. So San Diego got first, and biggest school inside of the type of Colorado was after that, but we got third. But that is where the action is. If you look at the autonomous cars, which I think this year time next year, it's going to be everywhere.
So I'm going to do a couple of things, Cedric,
Yep.
because I think the information that you have, in fact, if we can maybe drop the webpage to the Empower Yourself website would be helpful.
Yeah.
We don't have all, I mean, having your input is really critical, but we're going to maybe have a look at that.
Sorry.
I know, no, this is the things, that's why you're sitting at this table, the things that you are doing with the young people within the schools is where we need to start, so we can get the businesses, so they know they have students and those who are coming up the ladder to find jobs and to be part of the workforce. So I just want to be able to have, I think, on these questions in the key market and the expansion, the education piece, but you, like you said, you volley and you strap over so many of them, the workforce, the education, the private businesses. So when people take a look at your website, they're going to be amazed, as I am always, what you do.
Yeah. Yes, where we would, and we really need to get to local companies.
Yep, which is
right involved.
Which is why we're here today.
Yeah, that's something that's needed, because I have to go outside of here to raise up money.
So you just said it's subject, that's how we do it, is we do it from a collaborative approach, right? So how do we grow and expand the key industry sectors, right? Because that's what we want to do at the end of the day, is expand the businesses in the industries that we have here within the Route 24 corridor, but also how do we attract new businesses here and new industries? And one of the ways we do it is we market it, right? We market it to local education, higher ed institutions. What I mean by local education is the middle schools, the high schools in Brockton, in Easton, in Bridgewater, in all 6 communities that are part of the strategy here. So again, it's working together. So industries, municipalities, education, workforce, and nonprofits like yourself, Cedric. So some of the questions I just wanted to pose to open this up for discussion is, and this can be in any order. So for the industries, right? We got a little taste of this from the last meeting, but what are some of the gaps you're seeing in acquiring these in the skilled talent, right? Whether that's the middle or high skills, and what are some of the resources that you need? As we look to the municipalities, what are you seeing in terms of the barriers to expansion and growth of these sectors within your communities, right? And you know your communities better than anybody else. I know some of the things that we've been talking about here at OCPC is potential for sewer expansion, right? I know many of our communities don't have sewer, and that ties into this as well. Again, from the education piece, the courses and curriculum that are being offered to develop the strategy, mass hire, that comes into play, and then of course, we're working with.
Carmela has her hand raised.
And then we have a question. Carmela.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to mention, first of all, how important it is to offer, especially from the education perspective, courses that can leave our students on a track to enhance their professional development, whether that be in their career or their education. As the grant director for the district, one of my objectives is to try to sustain our students in terms of their careers. So I work heavily with our CTE director, Catherine Rickett, which I would love to invite her to our next meeting. We work together to try to offer opportunities through grant collaborations for our students. So I think I just wanted to talk about one of the ones that's very prominent right now. We received a Mass CEC grant for the Pluff School over there on Crescent Street to enhance the clean energy for the entire school. With that, we included in the grant to have a basically like a train to trainer model for our students at the Champion High School and the Pluff to basically be mini interns during the process and learn about clean energy in curriculum in their classrooms and develop their own little group of clean energy group and clubs for both at the middle school and high school to help develop their passion for these type of industry fields so they can go on to have a more sustaining future for themselves and their families. We understand that the path for going forward is different than it was 15 to 20 years ago. So we're trying to adjust that with our students as well. So I just wanted to say that we do notice that there are different barriers for our students, but we work hard to try to receive the funding and also utilize the funding in ways that can be useful for all people. So we definitely keep the students in mind in their futures and how they'll sustain it on their careers. So I just wanted to say that, and I appreciate us coming together to develop different strategies to improve it for our community.
Carmela, that's, I think, a really important part, right? When they're Mass CEC, particularly since we've been designated, they're going to want to see that we're working with all of you. So if you're applying for, or you have a grant, you know, Old Colony Planning Council and the members around this table and online, I should be requesting letters of support. I think having that be seen, having private businesses, I mean, it was one of the things that Mass CEC said to us was that we had such a wide variety of support letters from various folks. And not just a check off the box, but literally being at the table together and having the conversation. And you also said one other thing that I think is important, just not for you, but for anyone. If you feel, you know, we should always start these meetings, who is not at the table? So if you feel, Camilla, that there's someone you want to invite them. And that goes for everyone. We will share the stakeholder list with everybody, so you know who gets invited. That sometimes, you know, when we do the blind CC, but you should be able to see who we invite and see who's not at the table. That piece is really important. So thank you for doing that. But I want to go back.
Why do you have something to say to Camille? Hey, Camille, why aren't you looking out right after me?
I'm sorry, I can't hear him. Huh?
So what I'm gonna recommend is, because Paul started talking about this, what are the gaps? And I'm looking at Mike Tomasi, I'm looking at Matthew, I'm looking at Paul. Tell us as a private, and anybody else who's on, and hard for me to see, tell us what you feel the gaps are. What are your needs in the community, right? Just jump right in, anyone.
Well, first of all, it starts with some PR. You had just mentioned that, somebody at the outset. You know, I extended in the chat. You mentioned the 3Ds, but it's the 3S's that we got to focus on. We're safe, smart, and sustainable, and people need to know that. So anything from a public relations standpoint to get people a proper image and erase the old 3D image, that's where it starts, right? It starts with kids and parents first and foremost, and getting them educated into schools, videos, whatever it takes. That's the beginning. And then from a technical standpoint, that we could talk about a lot of different things there, but getting the kids interested, having the right soft skill set so they can adapt and integrate into our environment is most important. It's tough on the technical side because all of our companies have different niches. So, you can't pick a certain niche because we have different machines. You got to start from a general standpoint, and then the companies can pick up the slack with workforce development funds to help train specifically for their individual companies.
Mike, I think that's really helpful to hear. When I worked at Bridgewater State University, Fred Clark would always use, critical thinkers, right? In some ways, technical or not, but some of the things in terms of smart, sustainable, your 3S's, those critical thinkers are really going to be important to be adaptable to being trained, whatever may be. So appreciate that. Anyone else in terms of, I want to first from private businesses that you've heard before we go to the communities. Paul Diamond, maybe from your perspective, either agreeing with Mike or.
Yeah, I would echo what Mike's saying. I see Katie gave a shout out to Paula Martell that was on our staff for 10 years. We miss her. She's retired now. She was a force. So thanks for the shout out there, Katie. Yeah, I think as Mike said, there's a PR issue, which is first and foremost. Then I would suggest as we do, we try to get involved in STEAM events, even at the lower, the middle schools and lower, and really inspire kids at a young age. But also it gives us an opportunity to talk to the parents. Again, that's another PR collaborative, trying to get to the parents and wearing down these myths that are tied to our industry, which are long gone, decades gone. So yeah, but in terms of skills, as Mike said, our shops are very different. However, there is a very broad skill set in manufacturing, from the soft skills that Mike mentioned, computer skills, metallurgical skills. You have to learn about metals. You have to learn about how to machine metals, skills with blueprint reading. It's a very, very broad skill set that we require for success in our industry. And again, as Mike said, we can, as companies, we can take on the heavy work of upskilling people after they've been introduced to the industry and have a passion and an ability to succeed. But it really, the big part for me, I think, is a PR issue, as Mike said.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Yep. Matt, I don't know, Matthew, if you have anything to add? I know Pam, if not Pamela, I know you had unmuted yourself if you wanted to add anything.
Yes, my comment actually is about the attraction for these companies in the communities. So Stoughton has a road called Technology Center Drive. The plan was to have, tech companies take over that area of North Stoughton, and it ended up being mainly furniture companies. So we have to get property owners on board that want to try to attract these types of companies, and the communities have to make it easier to happen. We had a property owner in that area that was trying to attract a tech company that was very interested in Stoughton. They ended up going to Canton after they went to a ZBA meeting in Stoughton because people were being really cautious. They wanted to, the fire chief wanted to have information about safety, and they wanted to have a lot more information about what this company was doing. So as far as PR, I think that's the other part of it. You have to really educate the community and the property owners as to why these types of company might be worth the wait, rather than a property owner saying yes to more warehousing, storage. We have a couple of heavy equipment companies that moved into the area, which is a good business, but it's just that the area we had planned to have high tech, kind of the property owners gave up, and they just wanted to fill the spaces.
You know, Pamela, that's a great talk about a gap in a community, right? You can go through all this process and have everything right, but that I would label that as a gap within the community. You know, the state had still has bio-ready grading for communities that have proper zoning in place. I mean, the fact that the town of Stoughton went through and had a road designated as technology way, and yet is it really technology, right? Sometimes it's a battle at communities. I mean, I know the town manager from Bridgewater is on, and there's a lot of challenges that are months that you know, how do you then continue to take that on and still function as a community? So I know Rick Jordan has his hand up.
Yes, it's interesting that Avon, Stoughton's Technology Center has a furniture focus. That reminds me of Merchants Park in Avon, which also seems to have a sort of home renovation focus with the Floor and Decor tile shop. There's another good tile shop across the street, Home Depot, Jordan's Furniture, and you could even extend that to Costco. And I note that Technology Center Drive starts with BJ. So it's almost like we have a stream of focus on home improvement, home renovation, and of course there's Boston Interiors right there too as well.
Thank you, Rick. I think that's you know, again, really from a community's perspective as well. Anybody else from the private business element, right? Because I think there were the years that I was working at Bridgewater State University, working with our friends at Mass Hire, where we worked at the healthcare industry. You know, and then when we're here at Old County Planning Council, there, you know, let me go back to that, where we did research, looking at the different various curriculums at each of the schools. There was a manufacturer had, it was a survey that was done of what your needs are. We took that, we put together a report saying, here communities, or here K through 12, these are the needs of the communities. How do we work together to find funding or finding someone to train, because we want to sustain the work and the business within the region. That might be another takeaway from all of this that we may need to do. But the other piece as well is, you know, it starts early. And I won't say that to anyone, because I think you all know this, but it's not just the high school. It really is middle school. And at one point, OCPC, we had a STEAM coalition. We had people just coming together on a quarterly basis, sharing information. That became a little bit more administrative of a lift for us. So we put a bookmark in it, but that might be something to fold into this without repeating the work that's been done. I am still looking at anybody else online that I know there's been some things in the chat as well. Anybody else that would like to share about the gaps? I think that's the topic we're on right now. Gaps within a business, gaps within a community, maybe higher ed or colleges or anybody else that may feel that their workforce development. Do you see a gap that you see that from your perspective that may be out there?
I mean, I think for us, it's, we do see a natural lack of capacity for training and filling those high wage. I'm sure Mike and Paul can do a much better job there. employment data, but I think the people that they're gonna be losing are the higher skill gaps. And how do we do, I think it all roads lead back to the PR, starting with
Yeah.
middle schools, developing, you know, maybe a 3-point, just a quick hit of what are the benefits of being a manufacturer or machine operator, start with, and then moving up. How do we make that more attractive to a middle school kid? I'm sure building drones. I'd like to do it now.
Well, and I think that raises a good point. And I know, Mike, you have, as well as Paul, that have had tours for young people to come, right? Tons of them. And then I know you're at the colleges and universities doing, different kind of on-site fun stuff. What probably is missing probably from this table, when we think about it, let's get a young person sitting at the table. Let's get a young person. You're not young. You're not young.
No, I got.
But I know you
I
do,
got
but
kids at the high school, middle
but I do think it's valuable. It's something that, you know, without being disrespectful to anybody either on or around this table, but let's get a young person about what's going to, I serve as one of the co-chairs for the young adults for Mass Hire. There are 2 others who are young people who are part of the co-chairs. We need to embrace them and bring them to the table to help figure out if it's a PR for the young people. They have to tell us how to communicate with them. It is tough, but we have to figure it out, because if we don't figure out, we're not gonna be able to meet the needs. We're just not, right? That PR is a tough one. So unless you all have Snapchat or some other kind of way, right? That's,
I would say TikTok.
or TikTok or, right?
Maybe usually first.
But again, you know, without having to really beat the bush on this one, we really need to be, and I would put this on the table that we should bring some young people. And if we're gonna bring young people to the table, colleges can be, I think we can get, but if we're gonna do high school level, it has to be out of school time. And I would have to look to Camelia or others to tell us that when's the best time to bring young people to the table. Huh? Well, but field trip could be your whole school. I think the idea is, but I think we should put that as one of the gaps of how that can be addressed.
I think just on very simple layman level of looking at social media marketing, those are jobs. Those are real sustainable jobs in every company that's out there. And I think people disregard it as being a toy, as being something that's kind of play, but literally Instagram is the $1 million tip. Instagram is the place to be if you want to learn about anything happening from a business standpoint, right? And a social, like we're all here together, right? I'll probably see you guys at a conference, hopefully somewhere, you know, and so we'll meet in that type of environment. And then we might see each other at the Little League baseball game as well, right? As parents sometimes. These things end up online. So not only do we have an opportunity to take a little time, I tell people Sunday morning, get a cup of coffee, go learn something online, right? I say this to my adult friends because I think we are older and we kind of see things differently, but every company you think of, every, you know, business, I should say, is on social media. So if you go to Instagram, you'll see how active they are, but if they have a great social media management person, that's where the marketing part comes in. So for a young person, and again, I share this because like I just do it, I spend a ton of time with young people, and I just got back from LA this morning, you know, at a conference that I was at this past weekend. And part of this was this conversation here with manufacturers. The other part of it is the networking aspect of it, right? So the next 5 or 10 years, these young people in middle school have to be looking at who's in their network. So that's a skill that they also have to hone. But so
Can everybody hear online? Just want to make sure. Okay, perfect.
So social media for me as an entrepreneur, even though I create music, and again, I'm like my job, I'm a composer, so I create music, but a lot of my clients, a lot of advertising agencies, you know, production companies, everyone is on there. And I think people look at it and TikTok as more of a time waste, you know, like it's a kid thing, but it really is a marketing platform. And there's a reason why every major company is on there. And so that's where the young kids are. So companies that aren't on social media, on TikTok or Instagram in particular, they're not going to be on Facebook. They're not going to be on LinkedIn, you know, although LinkedIn, that's the way we catalog our relationships. But that's where we kind of have to be. And I think that's where we're gonna get the young people, those are sustainable six-figure jobs. I don't know if you guys ever typed in social media management jobs, but those are six-figure jobs that young people could, you know, you don't have to have every skill, you know, from everything they're learning in school goes onto that platform. Which,
And if you don't follow Malik on social media, I highly recommend it. Lorraine?
And I do follow Malik on social media. That is what I was gonna say. I just wanted to mention one thing that I think is important, just as we're thinking about this as a planning and strategy session in this plan, that's the purpose of it. Mass Technology Collaborative, the Center for Advanced Manufacturing, right now, one of their goals is to be focusing on youth in the schools. Another one is veterans. Another one is people from all different abilities. And I'm bringing this up. They have 5 focuses right now. This just came out of the past couple of months, in all honesty. And I actually serve on the group that's focusing on the uniquely able initiative that Bridgewater State, Mike Tomasi, I know Dan Evans is focused in on. So I serve on that committee. And Mass Ability is on that committee. But as we're talking about manufacturing as a whole, we need to be thinking about all of these different populations of people who might come into manufacturing to build it and succeed in it themselves. And I bring that up not to volunteer Mass Tech Collaborative, but I think that we could make a call to Mass Tech Collaborative and have them come in and talk about the 5 focuses that they have, the ones that I just mentioned, because we're going to be doing that same work. We're all working together. It's the ecosystem that we're all part of. And so it might make sense to kind of have them at the table also, or at least come in to share with this group what those goals are, or who those populations are that they're also trying to reach, because there are these groups meeting all over the state. And it really goes hand in hand with this. And I mentioned at our last meeting, because we're talking about the schools and students and everything. And in, you know, with the Mass Hires, we do have the Connect and Activities program. Christelle Love oversees that. And a lot of this kind of flows into that. So when you kind of think about all the different areas that our work could go, I do see a center to having Mass Tech Collaborative kind of share what those 5 goals are. It might make sense.
It does make sense. I also did not want to leave off on why we need to have young adults sitting and being engaged and how we do that. So totally agree. That's why I think this partnership with Mass Hire, both South Shore as well as Greater Brockton, is really important. Anybody else just
Paul
talk?
had their hand raised. I think it was Katie,
Katie?
I believe.
Hi, I put it in the chat too, because my audio is going in and out. My thing was, we do a lot of legwork with pushing early college or dual enrollment, depending on what the institution has. And please feel free to jump in, but we get folks signing on the dotted line before they even really know what that entails. We see it at Massasoit. I saw it at Bristol. A lot of these students may not even be ready, but the parents hear early college and they're off. But we don't engage the parents about, say, manufacturing pathways, some of these information security pathways. And at the end of the day, I think if we crunch the numbers between what it's going to cost their student, especially if they're using Mass Educate, or if they're going right to the 4-year, regardless, some of these are going to require fewer loans. You know what I mean? I think if we're talking about how to get the students more engaged, I think getting their parents more engaged is also going to be critical.
I think that's a really good point, Katie. And I think documenting these are really, you know, as we go through, it may not be the private industry who are involved at that stage, but certainly the institutions of higher learning, as well as through the high school, right? You hear early college, you hear dual enrollment, you hear all of that. That is, it's particularly, we're talking within the 6 communities that with this region is the tech hub is. Those are all really important. I'm looking at Avon, Brockton, Stoughton, Bridgewater, West Bridgewater. Yeah, it really is important to have it. So
I think, sure. I was just going to say, you mentioned it before, Mary, but we have students. Paul, I think there's a student right at Northeastern Machine that was a Massasoit grad. I feel like we got introduced to her last year. And there are other folks. I just met with a student who's getting his PhD from Northeastern School of Professional Studies. He came as a student of mine at Bristol 15 some odd years ago. and almost failed out because he had no interest in the classes. He had all the interest in the technical skills. I think we somehow need to capture that group of students. So I'll be quiet now, but I thought parents and in getting these ambassadors who have already done it.
Actually, Katie, don't be quiet. I think this is the important pieces that we need to know. Everybody has their niche of where, right? Pamela has about the town of Stoughton and that element of it. The institutions of higher learning, you see, because you see it on a daily basis and how to connect. Our role really is to uplift everybody, but let's do it in unison. And that's like trying to corral a bunch of cats sometimes.
Right.
But it's all for the right purposes, right? So, but there was something you said, Katie, that I was gonna think about, but it'll come back to me. Anyway, we know, and if the cost is going up, but I think that's where the partnership, we have Brockton Public Schools. I mentioned this to the staff before meeting this, we should also invite some of the other public institutions, public schools to the table as well. Understanding that Mass Higher or South Shore have the connecting activities and have some engagement, but we really should, and love having Bella here, we should also invite some of our other partners. Let's talk about the gap, because like with manufacturing, they're going to come with different experiences and different needs as well. So for the next meeting, we'll make sure these are all being recorded. The minutes are going to be up on the website. No one should be missing out on anything. We're all a phone call away if you really want to catch up, but
having a share externally, you know what I mean?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm looking to have you do. And one of the other things, I cannot read what's in there. Oh yeah, Megan's a great one. I know saw Megan recently, but we should, and I know she's familiar with the region as well. She used to work.
She's gonna run I don't want to speak for her, but I'm pretty sure she was here Friday. I think she's gonna do the underwater robotics competition this April. It's gonna be at Massasoit. So that's a good recruitment tool.
Knowing that would be great, for us for next steps to maybe even, we're not gonna be judging, but certainly there are elements in having folks. One of the things that we will be planning for those that are from the town, and particularly, we would love to do a presentation about the Tech Hub collaborative and to each of the Board of Selectmen. Right, so the town manager is there, we do it in conjunction, we have an award to give to the town for being part of us, and that means, it's not just one person, but it would be helpful to get the elected officials to know, so when there is time for coming together, that they know that there is this effort that they should be proud of as well.
Yeah, I just have one of the last thing, because since I kind of like work with like young people every day. And I do work with a lot with the type of private people. One time I brought, if they were Lincoln Impact Labs and also MIT paper. And I, in fact, showed them the type of saws of the center. And we walked on around the saw center, and they said, wow, this is absolutely great. And so it was their idea to say, look, man, we actually could come here and with the retrofit this here place. If it was somehow that the people inside the type of city would say, look, we are gonna turn that into the educational mecca. So we are going to have a regional STEM center that will serve all the cities and towns around us. That there eliminates all of the type of problems, because those companies would have it done. But we would have to come to them with an ask.
So
I just want to put it up.
Nope, I think that's great. I want to also be cognizant, we have 15 minutes left. Thank you, Nick. So I think your point and bringing that in as we move forward with the 15 minutes that we have left, Paul?
Yeah, I just wanted to go through a couple more slides and then we can continue to open up, but great feedback from everybody so far. I think this is very helpful. So as far as we continue to build out the strategy, so this is sort of the framework that we have to go by from the MTC. So as we talk about the next 90 days and as we continue to develop this, as we're looking to create a portfolio of at least 3 to 5 opportunities, things we can do, particularly on undertaking 90 days or less. So thinking about the short term, some things that we can do to collaborate on a short term scale, and obviously beyond 90 days and then on the longer term. And I'll talk about what that means when we go into the ecosystem readiness level. But again, some of the things we want to look for, some indicators of success, some milestones, and then of course, potential funding pathways as we move the strategy along into more of a planning next phase and hopefully an implementation funding project in a year or two. So in terms of the ecosystem readiness levels, so right now we're really at the ERL2, which is strategic planning, right? So we're doing the initial scoping, we're identifying the opportunities and the strengths, and now we're heading into phase 3, right? So we're bringing all the key stakeholders together at the table, we're engaged, and we're looking on how we can innovate as part of this project. And then, you know, as we move along, looking at ways we can innovate, and of course, way down the line, hope to grow and sustain this moving forward. So that's where we're at this point and where we're looking to go forward. So in terms of next steps, we definitely want to continue the dialogue. We'll keep recurring meetings going forward. The thought is to really hone on things, and a lot of the discussion today is to really maybe break out into some focus group sessions. I want to get folks' thought on sort of that format, and if that's a direction that we should go moving forward. Of course, again, continuing stakeholder engagement, and then another big key, as we found out today with the PR element of things, is that marketing and branding strategy is going to be key. I'll make sure we get it out to as many people as we can in the communities. Again, from the entry level to higher ed, middle school, nonprofits, and so on. So that is where we're at. I don't know if anybody had any, again, additional questions or thoughts on focus group shifts.
Nick is gonna stop sharing just so we can see everybody's lovely faces. You know, go ahead.
That's gentleman, I forgot his.
Don.
Hi, Don. I just wanted to apologize because I didn't want to sound dismissive when I was talking about social media, because you made the comment about tours, like touring, and I think that that's huge to make sure that we're paying attention to that, because I think young people being inspired is going to come in all different levels. Everyone functions different. I went to Wentworth. I thought I was going to be working on lathes my whole life, you know, doing some mechanical engineering, which I still love, but I still go into different companies and manufacturers that actually have all of these different skill sets, you know, just the diversity of skill sets from administration to, you know, something more mechanical, even woodworking, if you think about devices and chips and, you know, things like that, where hardware, drones, as you can mention, drones, you think about like who's manufacturing these drones, what does that take? Who's creating the prototype into that, right? You walk in there and you see wood all over the place, you know, in Sonos, which is downtown Boston, a lot of people, that's a brand name. Bose, right? You don't think like somebody's in there actually building this thing out of wood, or the speakers and components that are in there, not necessarily drone, but, you know, our computers have speakers and like all those things. So, you know, chips and things like that are being developed. It's great to go in and see those CNC machines and the lasers and everything's happening in regards to touring. So it is a part of what we do as well. Even the engineering society is global. So everything you think about, we wouldn't be having this meeting right now, you know, without that. Or speakers locally here that make microphones, the little teeny microphones, you know, and everything else like that, where we could set up tours, you know, and some things might not be up and down 24 Carter. So that's the thing that I wanted to find out is how does that work? But again, when I was just in LA, I literally had this conversation because this is what I do. Which would be really great to bring that and infuse this hub with some of those resources that are here. So
I too did not want to dismiss Don, by tours, because again, knowing, but, well, just by also knowing that it happens, through many of the work and they've opened up their doors. But we do have a listing, that Nick has worked on along with, Lorraine. We have a listing of the manufacturers in the region. And the reason why we also have South Shore, because we're in the area, like it's, air doesn't stop at borders, roads don't stop at borders, and neither does workforce. So having South Shore Workforce Board here is also really important to us, because this is only going to expand. So with that said, we do have a listing of manufacturers, and those within the range of specific industry. We kept a little bit more focus, but having that as an ability. So with the couple of minutes that we have left, some things that have been identified is some of the gaps of bringing some of the other schools or people that you have contacts with, either from your own company or other companies, to please invite them. We will share the list of the stakeholders so so you can see who gets invited. It really is the old fashioned way. It's through an email and through a meeting invite. So it just, for the simplicity of administrative pieces in but if it requires a phone call, we'll make phone calls if that's what it's going to require. Bringing students to the table, and whether it's, at this meeting, but we should be bringing young adults to the table, to having and hear from them as part of the decision early on, not secondarily. Oh, by the way, as Jason knows, it's a pet project of mine to make sure that young adults have a seat at the big table, not just at the kids table. And because it's empowering to them. I mean, I sit back and anyway, what else? We found gaps. And just in terms of, I think it's something that Pamela had said from a community's perspective. And if we're going to name, this is not, condemning, but if there was going to be, we're going to be branding, let's make sure that we're going to sustain. It's one of the things Mike, Tomasi talked about, that let's sustain it, right? We're going to call it Technology Drive. Let's help and figure out, having this technology hub truly be a technology hub. But I would say for the town of Easton, and I know Dottie, thank you for being on, but Easton, Avon, Stoughton, Brockton, West Bridgewater, Bridgewater, it's all important, and it's all for all elements, schools as well as industry, but also importantly the policy leader. So anything to add from online? I don't see any hands raised. We will take these notes. I found this second meeting to really be helpful, and taking another layer and step in the right direction. Paul, just in terms of the 3 to 5 opportunities, have we identified them?
No, I was actually looking for this group's feedback to identify that, maybe some, again, quick action to.
At the end of
we can start
scope of work that under the contract.
Well,
Sharp it up.
but I do hear like the public relations pieces of that. We all have a piece of that. It's not like on one, right? How do we then put together that strategy, and planning for what is it going to take? How much is it going to take? Where do we go? Right? All of those elements of that strategy. But I do think that that's an opportunity, and been said a number of times.
I think that's also an opportunity to engage with city officials,
Yep.
new mayor, senators, advocacy. The town, like advocacy is just so huge when we're talking about technology and building and policy when it comes down to it, even AI, which we didn't go into that, but there's a lot happening with AI right now that a lot of people are nervous about, but there's a lot of law that prohibits people from doing things with AI. So I personally do a lot of advocacy in DC when it comes down to, our intellectual property that we're creating. So if you think about patents and everything else that we're talking about here, it's all about advocacy, but it's also has to do with policy and law. So like, that's the reason why our city officials should be, and state officials, the governor and LG should be a part of this conversation as well.
The LG was part of the award, so I know that I know this is a very strong piece of this administration. Here's what I'm also going to say, if there aren't any hands up. When it's time to go to each of the communities, I'll let folks know, whoever wants to come along. you know, when we go to Avon, Mike Tomasi, I will be looking to work with you and with Rick Jordan. Just if you have time available, it'd be great to just go before the board and say why it's important. Workforce development, you know, anybody who would want to come, I think it's important to do that. And I do think that what I'd like is to have Nick Giaquinto to have some final words, since this is his last meeting with the tech hub, before everybody signs up.
Put them on the spot.
I am.
No, that's fine. No, I think this is great. I think going forward, it'd be great to get some more companies at the table. I think I've said at the last meeting, the more companies we have directly involved with this, the better the feedback's gonna be. Obviously, the input we get from higher ed and the communities is important, but I think, you know, I think if we can maybe work on some outreach to some of the companies, we can diversify some of the ideas that are coming in and have a greater product at the end.
You know, Nick, that's a really good point. While Paul and Mike and others, Matthew are on, you know, is there something, I mean, outside of being busy lives yourselves, like, is there something that might be prohibiting maybe other companies from being engaged? Is it the same thing? There's a PR level that meeting with a regional planning agency might not be a fun thing to do?
Paul and I have been at the table for 30 plus years now, and we're always looking for the next company. It's a challenge. You know, most of the companies in our industry are small. The owners are running machines a lot of times. They don't have the time. That being said, Mark Miller's joined. He hosted a nice association tour a couple weeks ago. You know, nice to get him involved. And we just got to continue we got to try to, you know, Dan Evans is very active.
Yes.
It's kind of the one-to-one grassroots personal touch and bringing companies in. Paul, we got to get Rich Malika involved in this and FH Peterson. They're two companies that'll you know, probably devote some time to doing these things.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. And as Mike said, Mary, we've, you know, been at this for decades and we're dealing with a lot of small businesses, and I really don't have an answer for you why we can't get more of us at the table. It's been a grind for a long time.
Yeah, I would appreciate both of you having comments, and I do appreciate all the private businesses for coming. You know, having be the president of the Downtown Brockton Association, where there's a lot of mom and pop stores, it's just like, it's really hard. But I am going to personally request and have you do what you've been doing. And if you think of anybody's name, just invite them, just have them come. I think our promise is to make this like a 1 hour meeting, but to really try to make it actionable. So, so we're not wasting your time just to meet for the sake of meeting. Lots more things that can be done. So, Mike, anybody else? Nick, you have the last word.
I think this was great. I think we'll take a lot of the information we got from this, and then our previous meeting, we'll summarize things, right? Paul will. And we'll use that sort of as a transitional document or some helpful information to take us to our next meeting.
Yeah, as Mary mentioned, we'll take the meeting minutes. It'll be on the website. This recording will be on the website, and we'll take everything into consideration and continue to move this forward.
Right. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate your time. And Nick, good luck in Norwell.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.